Welcome to Purposeful Empathy, a show dedicated to spreading more empathy throughout the world. Today's episode is brought to you by Grand Heron International, an on-demand coaching provider for individuals and companies. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the show.
So welcome to a new episode of Purposeful Empathy. Today I am joined by the fabulous Bryden, who is a professional clown and theater clowning facilitator, who has been deeply submerged in teaching, communication, and the creative process for over 3 fun-filled decades on 3 continents: North America, Asia, and Europe. Welcome, Catherine.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
It's great to see you. We were just catching up for all the listeners and viewers. I was trying to figure out how I know you, and you reminded me that I was stuck in, what was the country? Taiwan. And you and I'd missed a flight or something was wrong, and you offered me a bed to sleep on. Is that true?
Yeah.
Goes back a long ways.
You probably got a sofa.
Oh my God, horrific if I did that. So you believe, I'm so thrilled to stay in touch with you though I don't know, it was through LinkedIn that I saw something that you were up to and we reconnected and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a professional clown on this show talking about like the synergies between clowning and empathy, but we're going to get to that. Okay. So you believe the clown's approach to life and living nurtures your deep love and fascination of people, play, relationships, community, and above all, the stunning beauty of imperfection, which I just love. So let's start, because you also bring what's called loving audacity and gentle chaos to places such as teacher training programs, social circus programs, young adult artistic projects, organic farms, and Buddhist sanghas. Like you're like all over the place, right? Can you tell us what that means, this idea of loving audacity and gentle chaos?
It's great. I had written those words and now I get to sink down into them and have a feeling for, okay, here we go, Kath. What is that loving audacity? Did you even look that word up in the dictionary, Kath? For me, it comes down to sharing truth of who we are in no matter what field we're in. So loving audacity is to be able to say a truth. And I think there's many ways we can speak truth of what's going on for ourselves and for others. And it doesn't come out in nice, elegant, well-planned sentences, and if we can be gentle with ourselves, it'll come out in a gentle chaos. And if you're going to make a change, there's going to be disruption. Like change is, people love to have change and something new and learn something new in a nice way with a bit of distance. But real change is going to hit you, sideways, surprise you, and it's to bring a lot of love and gentleness into that and mix it all around. And I've suffered for not being able to say truths in our culture, to feel things and say, if we're all feeling it or we see it, why are we not able to speak about it?
Yeah.
And in all kinds of contexts,
So, people have this impression of like what a clown is, like, ha, 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 clown. But you're talking about something that means really getting in touch with what you're feeling and allowing that to emerge and communicating with other people, right? Is that what clowning is?
Yeah. This particular approach of clowning comes from Jacques Lecoq's School of Theater in France. And he discovered it. He didn't know how to get this deep level of authenticity into his actors. So we all have this experience. You're watching a play and there's some actors you're just drawn to and you keep watching them. And there's others where you get a sort of sick feeling in your stomach. And it's very painful. Actors know it too. I mean, we know it. And he had his actors stand up and they had to go up and be funny. So good luck. They go up, they try to be as funny as they can. And one after another, flop, 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 flop. Then they all sat down in a circle, and when they looked at each other and saw how pathetic they felt, and they started laughing. And he said, "That's it. That's a new type of clowning and humor." So we're not doing anything on purpose. What we're in life, we're doing something, and it's this humanity that touches us. So this type of work, I perform. It's a very gray, big area performance. Like, I can be very tilted forward and focused on my audience, and that's where my energy is going. I can be so tilted back that I'm so self-absorbed. I'm happy in my world, but that nothing's coming through. And then there's where we say we're playing in a field where I'm very connected to what's actually going on for me as a person. This feeds my clown, and then I look at people and share. So it's a sort of a subtle difference between performing and doing something only for yourself.
And it's all improvised?
It's all improvised.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you later, but now it feels like it's the right time to ask. You work as a clown in all sorts of different contexts, right? But like, how does that show up? Like, how would somebody reach out to you and say, "We need a clown to do X, Y, Z"? Like, could you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So a typical structure that I work in is a week-long conference on a theme. And could be like the German International Week for teachers, could be circus clowning training for a week. And there you have workshops that you take part in. So that would be, I'd typically be invited to be one of the workshops.
Yeah.
And then depending on the organization, they also some are open to having clowns. So it's like the court jester that comes at different times, takes part in the workshops, and bridges gaps or plays out difficult, sticky situations, like a conference that was booked and they decided to go ahead with it, but the buildings weren't finished. And there were all kinds of complications, including guests in their bathrobes at the conference because the doors locked, the electric wasn't working. So we often work in twos, and we come in, in our bathrobes and going, "Oh, isn't it great to be at a conference where you don't even have to get dressed?"
So you're like a crisis clown at that point.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's like, so there's in all different ways. And so that's a typical scenario. Then another one would be being invited to an organization that's had crisis after crisis after crisis. They've tried mediation. They've tried many different things. And finally, someone just says, "Well, could we finally just try something like clowning?" So everyone's, not thrilled about the idea often. And then we do, maybe a weekend or a week, and with themes of conflict. And we never go in with a goal. It's like going in and seeing what are people ready for. The closest thing I think people can understand, it's concrete and theoretical, is Gestalt therapy, where all the elements are just waiting to take shape. And they will. So we open up space for new perspectives of conflict. So we don't solve problems. With trauma, it's not about going into a trauma and healing a trauma. It's about creating new stories for ourselves between each other, so that the very simple thing is we feel differently after. And things can happen so quickly.
So could you give me an example? Because I'm trying to imagine, the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, is the political divide, right? So when you're saying people are trying to resolve conflicts, like, how would that actually play out with people?
Yeah. So we definitely try to stay on personal. So that's where it may be jumping to the other question of the relationship between empathy and clowning. It's sort of microscopic levels that we're working on. So, a wonderful example that touches me, because also with my rhythm of speaking and things, there was a woman who explained that the way she explained it's so beautiful how we tell our stories. She explained that she felt that if there were two men or more in a room, that she wasn't being listened to or respected as a woman. That's her experience. And then we do typical, you tell two other people, because our stories change when we tell other people. Then someone who has heard the story tells the story, and already there's a shift. I need to let go of my story when someone else is telling it the way they want to tell it. And then the clowns get to play with a story. And the clowns they have no moral judgments or values, mission, nothing. They take whatever they've been touched with about the story and play with it. So this particular story, clowns were doing crossing. They were just going, four of them were going one after the other, crossing. And the first one does one thing, then the second one does about the same thing, third one does about the same thing. And it's just for repetition, because something shifts in repetition. And they started out just walking across the stage, and looking, and then everything started to speed up, and they started to look like chickens. And there was three really fast chickens, and one that was just like, oh my God, everything's so fast, I don't get what's going on, I don't understand. And the three chickens are having a great time like this, going across, and the other one's just like lost. And then finally, the three chickens realized that there was somebody lost, and they just looked at each other, and they looked at the audience, and then slowly walked off stage. And the woman gets to then say, like, what images came up for her? What was, what touched her? And she said, oh, I probably talk so fast that some people don't even understand what I'm saying. And I'm like, I know this. So for me, it's very funny. I'm thinking, ding, 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 cat, personally. And then just for her, she said, well, maybe it doesn't have to do with men and women. Maybe it's a rhythm thing. So it's just to step out of the ideas that we're carrying about different situations and just, maybe it's something to do with rhythm. Oh, well, there we go. So it's not a solution, but something deep shifted for her.
Yeah. Because I've heard we repeat sort of 90% or more of the same thoughts that we have every day. Just keep recirculating in our minds. And so what you did is provided a moment of insight, right?
And they're spontaneous. So this is where even very simple family situations where a woman explained how she had poured milk over her sister-in-law's head, the whole thing of milk at the Easter breakfast table. That's a nice. Okay. She tells the story. Of course, she's feeling badly. She's feeling badly. And nobody wants to talk to her in the family. So the clowns got on stage. By chance, just happens to be two women who are breastfeeding. And they stood up. And the first thing they did, they look at the audience. And their hands were like this. And they went like this. And I said, go for it. Go for it. They've got milk going everywhere. They're swimming across the stage. They're just having the heyday, and they swim out. And the woman in her feedback says, the part I left out was that I felt really good when I poured the milk over her head. That there had been such a buildup of tension that I enjoyed it. So everyone sitting at the table is feeling this, knowing this. She said, well, what do I do now? She said, well, I just suggested to you, I said, you could tell her that you're really sorry that the tension had built up so far that it got to that point of doing something that's shameful and disrespectful, and that could we have a conversation about how to maybe not let it build up like that. So
wow. So wow, I came in with so many preconceived idees about what this conversation was going to be like, and I feel like we were like in this really deep, special place. So
yes, they're going far away. There's another idea. There goes another one.
So how is theater clowning? How does it relate to empathy and what I'm calling purposeful empathy? So having empathy on purpose.
Yeah.
What's the connect you see?
I brought something that someone wrote to me recently from the Buddhist Center that I thought is very eloquent. Why would I try to, do better? So this is someone who leads it's called Happy Teachers Movement in Europe. It's for mindful teaching. It comes from the Zen Buddhist Center, from the Thich Nhat Hanh lineage. And we work together because people often take their practice very seriously. Like I'm gonna get to enlightenment fast. So I've been invited in to shake people's ideas about their practice up, and it's a head nun that invited me. She just said, we need a bit more empathy for ourselves was a big one, she said. Mm-hmm. So this is Ira Anderson, and she says, I don't know how you read properly on the camera. The connection between clowning and empathy for me is that, first of all, it's hard to clown without being present, meaning being there for myself with all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that I have right in this very moment. I can't really hide because then my actions do not seem authentic or convincing, and the whole activity is no fun. So this is where we do a lot of unlearning in clowning. Kids are authentic, they know, and we somehow take on roles and lose touch with parts of ourselves. So we're unlearning. She also says, in order to be aware of my present inner emotional state, I need to have empathy and compassion for myself. Without this empathy, it's very hard to access my feelings, and I can't play with them. This empathy for myself is the prerequisite for developing empathy for others, because I can't be there for somebody else unless I can truly be there for myself. And I was very surprised that in a lot of the Buddhist readings, how they needed to change things for Western cultures and write it out, saying that empathy and compassion in other languages encompasses it for ourselves, for yourself. It's automatic. It's part of the word, and we don't have that. That we almost have a direction. So this empathy for ourselves, and in the clowning, it's empathy for everything that we are. I mean, I've watched some of the videos that you have, and it's when we strive to make change, it's wonderful. And there's microscopic levels inside ourselves that when there's a shift there, a lot of change unfolds naturally. For me, it's this instead of fighting something, I'm go, and I'm going to bring change. I'm going to make something different. There's something about an unfolding and a trusting that we're aching for this. And I think that's where the space we also work in this particular field of clowning has to do a lot with Carl Rogers' unconditional regard, nonviolent communication. We have rules, don't hurt yourself, don't hurt somebody else, don't break anything. And we have a lot of technical things that help us explore anger, all kinds of feelings that are just fun because they're fun. But I'm not going to grab somebody if I'm really angry and shake them. I'm going to just stand far away and I'm going to shake them, because that's what I need. So it's not therapy. Like, we don't go in that direction, but it's absolutely therapeutic.
Yeah, I believe that. So I'm just curious, how has this form of clowning changed you as a person and your relationships? And so I'll stop there because then I have other questions. Yeah.
Oh my. It shakes everything up. It's peeling away layers and layers and seeing that, there's a freedom that I have that I'm, it is very fun to be paid to tell the truth to people, instead of like trying to be someone that's fitting into something or I don't know what. It really is touching to see how people are aching for truths, that we're suffering. And then when people realize that clowning's not all that we suffer. I said, yeah, but don't suffer in silence. Like, really enjoy it. You're going to suffer all the way with us. So there's a new freedom that comes from enjoying suffering. enjoying crisis. And enjoying doesn't mean you don't hate it. You hate it and you enjoy it. Like, it's like this freedom. I think it doesn't make life easier. It, in a way, rocks the boats around all kinds of things, like what are beliefs about a couple, a family, money, ownership. Like it rocks these at very core levels. I think it's extremely easy to do wonderful things in life and, want to be changing things and stay in a very safe place. So clowning is very simple. It's wonderful to feel comfortable and safe. If you're in that place, you're in something that you know. So our comfort levels in our Western culture, we know it. We've got it good. Like this, no doubt about it. I understand. No one really wants to step out of that. Who does? So how wonderful when something comes along that invites us to step into places that feel uncomfortable. If it's uncomfortable, it's something new.
So do you think then, broadly speaking, COVID has been sort of a helpful clowning moment in the world?
This has been it's just like there's many different ways of living it. I'm very grateful to hear from many different cultures, because I think we tend to get Western news in mainstream news. Many different countries have different experiences of it. I think it's an invitation to take a look at our terminal illness called life. We all have. And really, what do we think about health? It's very individual. What do I think about respect of others, of other people's health, of my own health, my own body? I think these are just raising all kinds of wonderful questions. How interconnected we are. Come on now, great. We've got a perfect view of it. Yeah, I think it's been it's a good, Leonard Cohen with his, the crack is where the light gets in. We're cracking, and the seams are ripping apart of the things we've been trying to hold together.
So I'm imagining that you have nothing but example after example after example of clowning and seeing people have that moment of illumination, see something in a new light. I mean, I imagine that can be super addictive and also exhausting, right? So how do you replenish your own battery so that you can stay in that clowning capacity and keep sensing? Because, you're being a constant empath for the energy that's around you.
Yeah. It's nourishing. It's like air and water, watching how people ache to be different, to change. It's in them, it's just like, so when I suffer more from feeling people aching and wanting to be different and not finding places where they have space for that.
So do you feel that people who are resisting whatever's happening in the space that you're in, those are the people that, you wish you could touch and move the most because they're close to it? Or
I don't think about those things at all, because it's also what I like about the whole approach with Carl Rogers. It's the idea that none of my business. It's not my business. It's this full trust. The same also with working in a Steiner school. The idea is to have full trust in the other person's development.
So we're nearing the end of our conversation, and what keeps going through my head is I wonder how I can bring some of this clowning into my classroom and take a few more risks. I want to become a bolder educator, hold the space where we can be safe and brave together.
Yeah. I think artistic work is extremely vital. There's waking up a vital energy. That's what I like to talk about, intuitive intelligence. Mm-hmm. And it's this, all our senses, including our biographical hurdles and experiences, and bringing all that into something that's aching inside of us. Like, we're unique individuals that have been born, and there's something we can share that nobody else is going to be able to share. And no one else is going to see the world. So what is it that ache? What is to that? And it's also a lot of that birthing process happens in clowning, which I feeds any field.
Yeah, and can
Plus
transform.
That's the other one. The fun factor. Come on, this serious. Maybe I had to come to Germany to maybe I had to come to Germany to come and get the fun factor. Just like
Germany's the first place you think of when you think of fun.
For fun, I know. I picked the perfect place.
Catherine, what a beautiful way to end this episode of Purposeful Empathy. Thank you for your time and sharing. Thanks to all of you who watched and are listening. Have a great day. See you at the next episode.
Thank you.
What if you had access to your own council of coaches to help you break free of your thinking clutter, make that important decision, and liberate you from what's holding you back? At Grand Heron International, you get to choose the coach of your choice. You get to do so anytime and from anywhere. Visit grandheroninternational.com and harness the power of on-demand coaching today.